Hey beautiful people, welcome to my channel if you're new to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're not new to my channel. I'm gonna be really honest. If you can tell by the title, we're talking about Sienna Mae Gomez's response to the entire situation. And not only is this topic very triggering for a lot of people, but I'm going to start off by saying that I do not believe my opinion that Sienna is telling the truth. And so her statement, in my opinion, just gives me more insight in the way she thinks, but does not, in my opinion, clear her name. So I just wanted to start off by stating that the situation does have me a little frustrated, but I think it's important to talk about and digest everything, just because it's all coming out very, very quickly. All the information is coming out, and people need to look at each part individually. And so that's what we're going to do today. I do want to start off by stating that there's no hate to anyone involved. Genuinely, this is solely for educational purposes, and I hope you gain some insight watching this video. So if you don't know what's going on, I do recommend watching my old video on Sienna and Jack and that entire situation. But there has been new updates. So let's get into the update first of what's going on, and then we can get into the Sienna Mae Gomez response. So let's start off with recapping Jack's video, because I think that's really important. And the reason why he came out later instead of now was because many people reached out to him. Three are the ones that he posted in his video, stating that similar things had happened with Sienna, and as a victim himself, he believed that it was really important to talk about the situation so that their voices could be uplifted. So he starts off with a recap of the situation and how everything went down back 6 months ago. I do recommend you go watch the old YouTube video to know what's going on, but let's talk about how they met and the way he described it. So they met 4 years ago in high school, and he actually had an issue with Sienna in the past because she cheated on one of his friends, and it caused a lot of issues in the friend group. And this was back when they were 14/15, and he states that he believed in second chances, and that's why he gave her another chance. He was in the hype house, and that is when she went viral. She actually reached out to him asking if they would do an interview with her. So he did, and after that they just became friends, and they defined the relationship as just friends. They both agreed they were just friends. Then the Hawaii situation sort of happened, and the video was leaked. Mind you, they had some issues before. He talks about how he would get forced by her to be kissed and do all these things, and he was very uncomfortable. I do recommend you go watch his video, because it really does give you a lot of insight. And in the Hawaii situation, the video that was leaked all over the internet was talked about. And that night they actually confronted her, and she said, if this got out, it would ruin my life. I will change, I'll do better. Please, delete it, take it down. And after this, a lot of things just kind of went downhill. It did not get any better, to say the least. So Jack would take pictures with people, and she would get very jealous. And there was a situation in which they were at a party, and they just had a conversation about friendship and intimacy and stuff like that. And she saw him taking pictures with other people. She got very jealous and confronted him into the bathroom, pulled him away, yelled at him, got angry at him. And once that heated conversation started, she started kissing him and forcing herself on top of him. And that many situations like this happen, and he even states that he hated the intimacy from her so much that she would take advantage of the times that were angry, passed out, sleep, drunk, and it really because he couldn't say no, she took advantage of those situations, and she crossed boundaries even though they were just friends. Mind you, he alleges that she broke into his house multiple times because she had the code, and that he would sleep in fear of her being on top of him, because there was times where he woke up with her on top of him, and it just kind of was really, really bad, and it didn't get any better over time. He then talks about the time where he was in the shower at a hotel room, and they were in different rooms, and she picked the lock of his room and hopped in the shower, and that was one of the last times that they ever had an interaction, because he just drew a line, and he told his parents he didn't want her to go to Hawaii, and she went anyway. She just continuously cross boundaries and would cry to his friends like, why isn't he in love with me? Would get jealous at parties, would just break those boundaries, and he would tell her continuously, we are doing this for the internet, we are just friends. Now, as soon as that video was uploaded, her comments turned off. She did not address the situation. And the NBC article came out. So let's talk about the NBC article and what they said in this article. And as I read, text is going to pop on the screen of the articles, so you have that. So it starts off with the NBC article, and where she didn't make a statement, her representatives make a statement, and they make that clear in the article. And they state, the reframing of their history is harmful and untrue. And they say, to their knowledge, there is no police report, no police investigation, no charges, no private lawsuit, no contact with their legal teams in months. And the article reached out to the LAPD to see if they would respond. No response. And Jack Wright also did not respond to these claims. They say that Jack Wright continues his campaign to slander Sienna Mae Gomez with further false accusations. They also state his latest falsehoods in the highly edited video show that once again Jack is making a calculated action to hinder and hurt and harm not only Sienna's reputation and livelihood, but her individual human being as well. I'm just really confused by this statement. I'm going to break it down as I go. I don't know if I made that clear at the beginning. Because what would be Jack's intention to slander her entire name and get accused of being a liar as well? Because in the beginning, there were a lot of people that didn't believe the allegations or didn't understand what was going on. People said, well, he was like in the videos doing this and that. And then she posted her 2 YouTube videos and then people were really against him. It's not easy for SA victims to come out and say these things. So when they do, that's why most of the time people who come out and say these things are not lying. So I don't fully understand where the representatives are coming to state that they are doing this to like slander his name. It just fully doesn't make sense to me because I don't know what he would gain from this, especially being a man coming out with SA. It's very difficult. It's not really easily believed. And for the rest of his career, these allegations are going to be following him. And that's not easy to do either. So I'm very confused on like this idea that they're doing this to like slander her and destroy her reputation. It's just very confusing to me. She continued to work with brands like Ray-Ban, Walmart. There were some other brands that she continued to work with even though she had these allegations put out against her. So I'm just confused where these representatives are coming with these words. Okay, so now let's talk about the article / blog post that Sienna Mae Gomez posted called Sienna Mae Gomez Reflections from an 18-Year-Old Me. So this article starts off with different parts and different sections, and the first one is sort of like an introduction, sort of untitled. So in the first paragraph, she talks about being 18 and how she's just turning 18. She talks about how she has to do a very challenging thing and she just wishes she could go back to being a child. She then, in the next paragraph, talks about if you're here, you probably know about the situation, and she talks about how for the last 8 months she's been fighting to save friendships, her business relationships, her own mental health. And up until this past week where everything came out, she was really proud of all the progress she had made because she had spent less time on her phone and more time learning stuff and cooking with her friends and valuing things that really mattered. I think these 2 paragraphs were written to sort of entice the reader into thinking that this poor innocent thing has been manipulated and lied about and that everything is not as simple as you see and there's more to her than these allegations that are coming out. She then goes into 4 days ago after turning 18, her former friend Jack Wright, the one that she's been tangled with in a toxic web of accusations and internet tea, posted a 17-minute video about her. And then she says, and yesterday 5 days after turning 18, sort of to say like, look, I'm still a kid, I just turned 18. She had to say okay to a media statement written by her publicist in response to that video. And shortly after that, her legal team sent his legal team, she's sort of like distancing herself in like these statements, like her legal team, her publicist, like she didn't have to choose, blah, blah, blah. Her legal team sent to his legal team a letter threatening a lawsuit for defaming her character, because that is the best next step to clear your name. And she's sure it's hitting the media by now. I think this was like a way of saying like, I didn't have a choice in the matter. Like I had to do these things because it was the next best step. And that seems like very frustrating. She then capitalizes, I've never been more scared in my life. She thought turning 18 would be amazing, and it is sucking so far. And to be honest, I kind of see what she means by that, but I don't think that in an article where you're talking about a situation, you need to write all of these things. She then goes into her 3 choices. TW here for, it's the only way to put it. Please don't send hate to anyone in any way, shape, or form. She can either read the million I hope you blank yourself messages in her DMs, let her well-meaning parents and team dictate her next steps, and tie us up for what could be years in a legal battle with people who she once considered her closest friends. Or she could write everything down from her heart and use her newfound adult status to take accountability and share the whole truth with anyone who will listen. I think she has a 4th option, and even a 5th option. Her 4th option is to turn herself into the police and accept the damage she has allegedly done to Jack Wright, or completely take a step away from the internet and deplatform herself. I know a lot of people won't seem to agree with that, but being an influencer, I've talked about this before, is a privilege and a job. It's not a right that you deserve, especially if you have done problematic things or awful things like what Jack Wright is alleging against Sienna Gomez. And other creators have deplatformed themselves when being accused of this. Very, very few. One was Gemini, because he wasn't getting any support anymore, and I can't seem to think of any others right now off the top of my head. It's also like 5 a.m. right now. But there are creators that have done that before. So I do believe that there is another option than to continuing to push and pull and this and that. I'm just saying. She then goes into saying, to be honest, it's not hard for her to choose number 1 and actually follow through, which no one deserves. I've said this before. However, I don't think that needs to be written about in the article, because it's not holding yourself accountable for any actions or talking about the truth in any way or form. It's a way to get pity from the people reading this, and it's a way to pull at heartstrings instead of the facts and what's going on. She's also sick of tired of fighting, and that she told her parents that she wanted to the night before, and her heart hurts for her friends, her family, and people she associates with who are getting bullied on their own social media accounts because they know me. I'm assuming she's talking about Summer McKeen, because Summer McKeen had to make a video addressing this entire situation. But these are all creators that continue to associate with someone after they had been accused of SA. And that is their own consequence of their own actions. Completely my opinion. So she's going to choose number 3 for the sake of the people that she loves. And she's going to get real and bare her soul and have faith and trust that she will land. Sorry, there's a bug. It's been bothering me for a while, and it's already bitten me 3 times. And trust that she'll land wherever she's meant to land. Then she goes into her first title, which is called The Beginning of Jack and Sienna. And before I get started on this, there's a little picture, as you can see, and it's a picture of them looking completely head over heels for each other. However, it's already been learned and it's already been established by Jack that he set the boundary that the internet stuff was internet fake relationship stuff, that they both knew that they were friends, and she talks about this in the article. She agrees with him as well. So it is completely established. So I don't know why she's putting this picture here. In my opinion, it feels manipulative, and it feels as though she's trying to sway the audience to pull at their heartstrings again. And this is why I'm frustrated with this whole blog post. So this section begins with when she was 16 years old, One of her TikTok videos went viral on social media. So she's talking about her growth and how she like kind of started on the platform, how her and Jack had this business relationship. She asked her hometown friend Jack Wright to do her first big interview with her in Los Angeles. So she, in this part, is really interesting because Jack says that he was asked, and it's a way to like pull at his strings and see if she can detangle his story, if she can pull at a few strings. Because some people would be like, wow, if he lied about that, would he lie about other things? But it's just frustrating because it's an unnecessary detail that needed to be done. He was out of town, so she asked her brother Jack to go with her. And she was friends with Jack, but she knew James better. But both of them had blown up on TikTok a few months earlier, and from that day on, she says her life would never be the same. Jack introduced her to people in LA, and she started being online for a couple of months, and it became a really fast-paced lifestyle. He was her person, and they were instantly connected. She said that suddenly people noticed the spark between them, and her videos with each other went viral. She says that they were America's favorite teen ship, and it all happened so fast that neither of them really knew what it meant. These are her words, by the way. I think that this part is like swayed to totally make you believe that like it's a romantic teenage love story, like we were head over heels for each other, like there was a spark, there was a connection. She's making it seem like there was more of a connection than I think that there was actually, in my opinion. She goes, we were thrown into a pretty crazy exciting relationship because the public demanded it. We couldn't make enough content together. It just went if we went just a few days without each other in our videos, the press would run stories like, did Jack and Sienna break up? And she making this seem like it was so big, like it was like PETA and Katniss, like everyone is talking about it. And maybe it felt like that to them, but I don't think it's necessary to include this in an article where you are addressing someone's accusations of SA. Like making it seem like, hey, we're up in the clouds, like all pretty, all romantic. Let's ground ourselves for a sec. Sienna then goes into the fact that they had major companies reaching out to them for brand deals, and Jack even switched agents to make it easier for work opportunities. Here she is pushing the blame on him again, saying like he did this to be closer to me and do this with me because you had a business relationship established. You had a fake relationship on the internet. And this is where she says she was in a confusing state of not knowing whether it was real or fake, so she started falling in love. And again, she's trying to make this sound like the teenage romance movie, but it's so much more serious than this. So the next section is titled Hype House. And again, this is one of the sections that angers me, in my opinion. So she says, in December of 2020, after 4 incredible months of TikTok fame, more fun than I've ever had, and what seemed like a perfect life, I got a call from the producers of the Hype House show asking her to be one of the featured influencers headlining the series. They also told her that they didn't have to plan Jack in a lead role. So that's when she negotiated to get him in the lead because she thought it felt wrong that he was one of the people to introduce her and she wasn't even an official member of the Hype House. And Thomas Petrov asked her to join, but her parents said no. So she decided to be on the show, but if only Jack was a lead role, and they agreed. So she made it seem like she got him this entire opportunity. She was the reason he got a lead role, and without her, he wouldn't have gotten this. And I think Thomas would have fought for him, and if he knew about the opportunity, I think he would have fought for it more. So I don't know what that whole section was about, but I don't think it has anything to do with SA allegations. So she gets in from February through April 2021. They filmed the show and they filmed both of their hometowns. Apparently it was a major plot of the season, their romance, their life story. And she talks about how they were filmed even in Hawaii and how it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't fun, that the producers kept pushing their relationship, that other Hype House members were pressuring them to define what they were, and they were being asked to kiss each other. Are you more than friends? Like, are you in love? And she just it felt a lot to her. In my opinion, I do think it would have felt a lot, but I don't think it's to blame for doing what you did. He said that she started to realize the truth behind their relationship, and she says that both of them started to realize the truth behind their relationship, and they agreed to not put a label on it. The more they pressed her on camera, the more emotional she got because she wasn't sure if they were friends or not, or more. And she would agree to just be friends, and then he would she would agree to just be friends. And then she says, and then he would give me an expensive or even matching jewelry or plain elaborate outings. That was for the camera. And you made it clear. You made it clear that you were just friends. And then would do these things on camera because he wanted to boost both of your careers. And you both agreed to it. And said the more they pressed on camera, the more emotional she got. And they would just go and talk in a private place, say they were just friends, and then be making out with each other for the camera. Because you guys agreed to just be friends. She didn't know what was being set up by producers or if it was real or fake. And that's when she told him that she loved him. And he said, allegedly, that he loved her back. And then she asked if they could be more than friends. And he would say not yet. And that she wasn't comfortable with rejection, but it was honest. And so she just kind of went with it. And then we get into the section, Hawaii and the video. There's another manipulative picture, in my opinion. Don't love that. She says in May, they took another trip to Hawaii. This is the one where the video was shot at. And the Hype House filming was completely filmed, and they were filming other content because they hadn't been filming content for a really long time. And everyone was like really confused what was going on. So they posted content together. And she wasn't originally supposed to come on this trip, but somehow she found her way on, and he apparently said that it was okay for her to go. And looking back at it now, this is where sort of the manipulation comes in. Looking back at it now, she saw that it was to make content. Something on this trip was different. Everywhere they went, he introduced her as his girl and then take pictures and blatantly flirt with other people. And she was jealous, and more than that, she was confused. And she said, why was she here? Why was introducing me as her counterpart, telling me to wait patiently to be together if he really didn't want any of it? They had a business relationship. They were friends. I don't know what she was expecting. Clear boundaries were set, in my opinion. And that's when she says it hurt her and she left because she said that he only liked her to make videos, to make content, and that she was using him for he was using her for views. And that she wanted to make a video with him explaining to her fans they were just friends, and he said no, because they had brand partnerships riding on the fake one, and it just wasn't fair to him to do this out of nowhere. She was being disregarded for the money, the sake of money. And I personally don't think it was that. I think it was their careers. They both agreed to this from the beginning. And although she caught feelings, there's a better way to explain that than expect to be in a relationship with him. Like, you can't just say that means you deserve a relationship, because in my opinion, it doesn't. He apologized and she appreciated that, but she needed time away from him in her public persona. And this is where I think she just left without telling anyone, because apparently James started texting her, Jack's twin, and asking why they weren't responding to them. And I think that's why they texted her, like, where did you go? Like, what's happening? What's going on? She doesn't really address the part where she left and then came back to Hawaii. And then she doesn't address any of the hotel room stuff. She doesn't address more things, but we'll get into that. 2 weeks later, they started posting Instagram stories targeting her. That's what she says there. I don't know what she means by that. And then 1 day later, their friend Mason put up a tweet implying that I physically and mentally Jack. Okay? She then says a few days later, their friend Lachlan released a video taken from November 2020 party, the one where Jack's unconscious, and making it look like something it wasn't. And that James had taken the video on his Snapchat 7 months earlier and decided, as a joke, and decided to resurface it. She says that it's a joke and that it wasn't what they made it out to seem. I personally don't believe this because, in my opinion, why are there so many people coming out and saying that what Jack is saying is the truth? What do these friends have to gain from her? This situation. She says that neither Mason nor James realized the impact of their tweets and the taken out of context video would have. And though they all took down, she makes that very clear, they were pushed, I believe, with legal action, it really didn't matter. The damage had been done. Okay. Her character became a topic of public conversation. She makes it about herself. Instead of saying, that video did not happen the way that they are making it happen, period. She starts making it about herself. She lost friends, she lost brand deals, and her reputation was damaged. She went from being one of the most loved girls on the internet to being one of the most hated. She went quiet, which isn't true. She uploaded like 2 things on TikTok and on YouTube. And that she lost her will to live and had to be saved. She spent months healing and getting better, and she asked the Hype House producers to remove them from the show, and she thinks that this is why the Hype House members hate her, and that she feels sorry for the casting crew that worked so hard on this. To be completely honest, this isn't the time or place to be talking about those things. And it's, I think, another form of like manipulation tactic to make you like feel bad, because she's apologizing to those people. So like she apologizes when it really matters. She lost friends, she lost brand deals, and her reputation was damaged. I think if you're accused of SA, like it's reasonable to lose these things. She went then into Jack setting the record straight is the title of the next section. She's had 3 relationships in her life, and I think the third one's gonna interest you all. Her first boyfriend was sweet to her, and she was just turning 14 when she started dating him. He was supportive and caring and communicated his feelings, like how he preferred my time over public affection. So she's talking about love languages, which she's going to talk about later. And in his YouTube video, Jack brought this relationship up. Yes, that was the cheating relationship she talked about earlier. I think he brought it up I don't know why he brought it up, but I think he brought it up, in my opinion, to demonstrate that Sienna has a pattern of certain things. And in my opinion, he also said it to demonstrate that she's caused damage in the friend group before. But I think those were the reasons why she brought it up. And then she talks about how she didn't cheat, that she kissed another guy the day after they had broken up, assuming this is like a fight they've had in the friend group before. She then gets into the second relationship where she was just hanging out with them recently, I think just to like demonstrate that she's like, people still like her even though those allegations have come out. And in this she says that he is one of like the funniest and biggest hearted people she knows, and they broke up because she went viral on TikTok and he didn't want like public attention. I think it was very interesting that was brought up. And I don't know why he was brought up, because he wasn't ever addressed in Jack's video. So I think it was like to demonstrate like she would still have a relationship with someone if it wasn't for Clock app or TikTok. She then gets into Jack being the third relationship. And in my opinion, Jack was never the third relationship. And this just demonstrates to me that Jack never believed there was a relationship, but she always did. And I think that just shows her mentality. And that he knows the real her and not this, and that he's just like manipulating it. And this is where the Latino part comes in. And I am Latina myself, so I think I have like a voice in this. Why is she bringing this up? She is only bringing this up, in my opinion, to get more guilt tripping out of people, because she even played into the stereotype. Like she said, like spicy Latinas who only date like white boys. Like she played into the stereotype multiple times, and it frustrated a lot of Latinas like myself. And she played into it, and now she's using that as a form of a manipulation tactic. She says that he's making her sound crazy and that he twisted so many things out of context in his most recent video, and is literally painting her into the loud, crazy, overly sexualized stereotype that people try to use on young, especially Latino women. He never called her crazy, he never called her loud, and he never called her over-sexualized. He talked about being SA'd, and I think that's why she's manipulating and turning the words, also to downplay the SA. She then gets into some arrows, and she says she never broke into Jack's house, but she knew the code to his garage door, and that everyone was allowed to in and walk in and out as always. I don't think if you know the garage door, that doesn't mean you have the consent to just walk in and out whenever. The producers were definitely like telling Jack that you were showing up, but it's about how like they did that even on the show, and that everyone did it. It's the hangout house, and everyone was there even until 2 a.m. sometimes. And that Jack says he used to see her car at 2 a.m. in front of his house, but failed to mention that there were other times there were friends there too. But I don't think he's talking about those moments. I think he's talking about the genuine times where she allegedly did this. She goes into saying like she and Jack only ever kissed, and that they spent several nights at the Hype House together, but she never grabbed him asleep or awake, and that she's being called a over the internet over those who don't understand the meaning of that word. Jack never accused her of that. He accused her of being of him. And I think it's very interesting that she goes to that other extreme. I think it's to, like, again, pull at the lies and, like, try and disassemble his story. She then pulled, in my opinion, a James Charles, because she says, the counterpoint for every point that Jack made in his videos, but I'm not going to do that. Did I do some things wrong and sloppy as a 16, 17-year-old when I fell in love for a guy? Yes, for sure. I admit to stepping out of a car, stopped at a stop sign. Like, she's then going into, like, the stories, but she doesn't address, like, the hotel room, doesn't address, like, breaking into his house multiple times. She says that she didn't, but she doesn't address, like, specific instances that he's talking about. And she's just, like, blatantly saying, like, I didn't do any of these things, and not explaining what would make Jack think that you did these things then. She then says that he did some stupid stuff too, like chasing after a car full of guys trying to start a fight with them because they catcalled me on the street. I think any guy friend would be protective over that, because it is a scary thing to face as a woman, and you saying that it's a stupid thing is like, oh, it's a stupid thing because he wanted to fight people, not because he was trying to protect you. And then she says, or locking our mutual friend out of his rental house in Hawaii because he was flirting with me. I don't know, maybe he thought that the guy was being too forward. Like, I don't think that, maybe that one did cross the line. But did you communicate that with him, or are you using that right now as a defense to try and pull away from the serious allegations that are being pushed against you right now? She says, I don't know, chalk it up to being young and the fact that our brains aren't even fully developed yet. Teenagers do stupid things. Essaying someone isn't a stupid thing that teenagers do. She then goes into my regrets, and that she says she wishes what she knew now, and that she wishes that they had laid boundaries that made sense to both of them. I don't think it makes sense to both of them. You laid the boundaries of friendship, and you broke those boundaries, and that's why this happened. She would have liked to try, but she doesn't know how many people at 17 actually did that. Personally, at 17, I did that, but whatever. I wish I knew that every time he did something nice for me didn't mean that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. I think that was made clear, in my opinion. And she says that looking back, she would have definitely done something different. And that was what she did with, like, she then titles the next section, my first set of YouTube videos, which is the videos in which she talked about the essay and how they were just made badly. I think that this is an apology that's far too late, and it hurt way too many people already. But you can read her sort of apology on that. I personally, as someone who has been essayed before, is that she was never in a relationship with him. They never had a relationship. And she says that she wishes she had met him with his love language instead of hers, and that she'll never make this mistake again. Then the next one is the importance of consent, and she, like, says that it's not something that's taught in school, which isn't true. I was taught consent in school, but maybe she wasn't at her school, and everything needs to be an honest and open conversation, which most people do know this. And that if she then gets into Jack's sort of apology, which she says that she apologizes for the times that she made him feel uncomfortable, and she's sorry if she ever did anything that triggered other things that you've experienced of any feelings or discomfort. But she did anything unknowingly on the physical relationship on camera was of one of closeness and familiarity they had known to carry into her real lives. That said, there's a distinct line between that and sexual assault, and that she's sad that this is where it's ending up, and even more that she's being used in a new and even more hurtful way. So she's saying that she didn't do it. She's apologizing to him, but she's saying that she didn't do it, and that he's just, like, manipulating the situation. And the next title is called I'm Growing, and this is the section, sadly, doesn't hit anything for me. She talks about how growing up she wanted to be famous, and in that she sort of manifested it herself.